The old ways are worth keeping alive, worth handing down, and worth remembering.
For 50 years, the preservation of Acadian culture has honored the resilience and heritage of French settler descendants through enduring language, music, and family traditions. In the far northern reaches of Maine, where the St. John River separates two nations but binds one people together, lies the town of Van Buren, gateway to the St. John Valley. Modernization was sweeping across the landscape, and with it, the fear that the unique traditions, language, and way of life of the Acadians, descendants of French settlers who arrived in North America in the 17th century, might fade into memory. The Acadians immigrated from France in search of religious freedom and the ability to practice their faith. The Acadian Village Museum was born from a community's deep desire to preserve its heritage and share the story of Acadian life in northern Maine. The founding organizers, Martine Pelletier, Francis Levasseur, Isaac and Emily Harris, Gilles Nadeau, A.J. Michaud, Madame Geneste, and Eddie and Maureen Belanger, joined together to establish the Historical Society, planting the seed that would grow into the Acadian Village Museum. Residents of Van Buren and the St. John Valley united to preserve Acadian culture, teach younger generations about their heritage, and share their traditions with others. The question now is not whether the story will continue, but how its location and funding will be secured to preserve this living. In the early days, fundraising efforts were humble yet heartfelt. Local families, artisans, and volunteers came together with a common purpose: to build a living monument that would tell the story of their ancestors' courage and perseverance. Gracefully marking her 80th year, Madame Martha Cyr Geneste has been named our Heritage Mother in recognition of her many contributions to the community. Mrs. Geneste is wearing a replica of her mother's 1890 wedding gown. The color La Couleur Rouge Vin was among the most popular choices in the late 19th century.
The local television network traveled to Van Buren to document the inaugural Heritage Weekend, producing a feature titled A Time to Live.
So I'm Dawn Halstead, and welcome to A Time to Live. We're here in Van Buren, where they will be celebrating the Heritage Weekend of the French Acadians. And I've been studying the program for the weekend. It is, incidentally, the very first such celebration of the heritage and traditions of the Acadians of the St. John Valley, and they have a very full program, wouldn't you say, Ed?
They do, Dawn. I'm looking forward to the French cuisine, which we'll have a little later on.
Yes, and these foods sound so much more interesting in French, don't you think?
It's a good thing they wrote them in English so we know what they are, too.
Yes. But then there will be a lovely display of the crafts of the area and the rapidly developing craft program. We will have French music, French dancing, French singing. Personally, I'm very excited about it. Ed, I think it is interesting to know that this, as I said earlier, is the first. There will be others.
This is the first, and I think probably as an observance of the significance of French culture with respect to the Maine heritage. It is a contribution that French people have made to the culture of the state of Maine. This is a significant event.
Yes. And then, of course, eventually they hope to establish a living museum here where the traditions will be kept sound and whole for oncoming generations.
Un futur musée d'héritage vivant. And everything begins with a ribbon cutting.
We're talking. Of Heritage Weekend.
Mrs. Halstead, it's a pleasure to see you.
Well, it's good to be here.
I'd like to point out, Mrs. Halstead, some of the handiwork and the arts and crafts that are at our huge display here. These are some quilting done by local ladies. This is a quilt. The pattern is the Texas Star, and these have all been hand quilted. We have such a variety of items here that it is really interesting just to browse through and see how handy the people of the valley here are really are.
Well, you're emphasizing the traditional.
Yes.
The aspects of your heritage, really. Has this sort of thing come down? Has it been practiced through the years?
It has been, but we've noticed, and a few people from the community have noticed that some of this tradition, some of this heritage that has been handed down from generation to generation is slowly becoming lost. So, as a group of interested citizens got together and thought that we'd sort of highlight this kind of a thing, that the living heritage that we do have now be kept up by dramatizing it as a living heritage weekend such as we've done today.
Well, now this is your first celebration of Heritage Weekend.
Yes, it is.
Did you feel that you were in danger of losing some of the most important parts of your cultural
definitely.
heritage?
The valley in Van Buren is full with unique kinds of cultural things. Due to the French background and our isolation from the rest of Maine and for long periods of time during history, this culture is very unique to this area. Our songs, our dance, our superstitions, our religion, and we were afraid that a lot of this would be lost and that our children's children wouldn't have the benefit of being able to have the joy of this culture.
Well, there was one point that I noticed. You speak about the special quality, character of the people of the St. John River Valley. But I noticed also the sign outside of Van Buren that says Gateway to the St. John Valley.
Yes.
Just what does that define in terms of geography?
As the valley here was isolated for a long time. And the Acadians settled here purposely for that purpose because they had been banished by the British from Nova Scotia, and they wanted to settle in a place that would be isolated, that they wouldn't be bothered by the British. And so they chose the St. John Valley. And so coming from U.S. number 1 over from Kirrible, you enter into the valley, and Van Buren is the first French town in the valley, and it is the gateway to Canada, the gateway to the St. John Valley, it is the gateway to Acadian country, USA.
I wonder how many of our fellow citizens in Maine are aware of this distinguishing quality. They know, for instance, the Acadians ended, some of them at least, in Louisiana.
Yes, they are. We've lost contact, really, culturally and what have you. I was fortunate in going over a few years ago and trying to find out some of their old customs, trying to compare what their folklore, how similar, how different, or some of the things that I could pick up that was similar to ours. I surprisingly enough found a lot of similarities in their cultural background that we have that they've still maintained, and it was quite rather interesting.
Well, now, you are very young, really. I find that interesting because I think it's important to mounting and sustaining a program of this kind. Tell me, are the children still bilingual?
Yes, I would say that we have probably, this would be a rough estimate, but probably 75% that are pretty well bilingual. And we, due to federal programs, and we have had additional funds now to keep the bilingual aspect, so that now French is better accepted. It is taught in the schools, and in the junior high, for instance, we have 3 full-time French teachers, which is remarkable, which wasn't so, let's say, 10 years ago.
I find that very surprising.
And I'm sure that you saw today the activities that these children have practiced, the lessons that they've learned in school were demonstrated in the little folklore dances and songs.
Well, now, what do you project for the future?
I would like this to become an annual affair, but emphasizing the living culture, have something very much alive, very much with us, very much so that the French people are proud of being French and they're proud of their heritage and their background.
Well, with you and people like you gunning it, I'm sure it will be a successful program.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
The fundraising effort emphasized how natural resources and human skill were closely connected. The exhibits reflected respect for craftsmanship and pride in creating durable, beautiful objects infused with the spirit of their makers. Music was a central part of the event and added energy, excitement, and emotional connection to the overall experience. Performances and shared musical moments inspired attendees and encouraged active involvement throughout the program. The combination of music, creativity, and community spirit demonstrated how collective efforts can create a positive and progressive impact. During the 1600s and 1700s, indigenous connections, particularly the support of the Mi'kmaq, were crucial to Acadian survival. They shared essential knowledge of the land, including safe travel routes, shelter, and sources of food. Often at great personal risk, Mi'kmaq communities helped Acadian families endure violence, displacement, and upheaval. This relationship was not sentimental, but courageous and life-saving. Acadian survival was shaped not only by determination, but also by indigenous aid when it mattered most.
The art of transforming homegrown flax and wool into finished cloth survives in the valley. Ed learned how it was done when he talked with Mesdames Martha Jeanette and Euphemie Willette.
Now what are we going to do after we get the flax all squared away?
We have to spin it on the spinning wheel.
I see.
And then it has to be put on a ball until it's all dry.
Okay, and then Mrs. Willette here is doing some spinning for us.
She's spinning.
Euphemie, spin away. Let's see the thing work. Now, this is a very old spinning wheel she has there, is it not? The wheel which Mrs. Willette has is quite old.
Over 100 years it belonged to her grandmother.
I see. Works just as well now as ever it did.
Yes, and she has been using it at the fairs and also at different parties that we had.
And at one time, about all the clothing that was worn had to be originated on a spinning wheel.
On a spinning wheel.
I see.
Because it had to be taken from the sheep, carded, washed, put into a roll, and then on the spinning wheel.
And some of it was from flax, as well as from wool.
Yes, flax was cotton. The first spinning wheel really was made for flax. After they...
The land on which the Acadian Village is situated was generously donated by Mr. and Mrs. Charles Iota of Van Buren, Keegan. This property was once part of their working potato farm, offering fertile ground not only for crops, but for the preservation of heritage. Gila Nadeau painstakingly coordinated the land surveying process to determine the exact locations where each building will be reconstructed. Albert Gagnon and Roland Durepo began the process of getting the land ready to receive the forthcoming buildings. They needed to work around the weather as spring revealed soft dirt. In preparation for the forthcoming buildings, the land required extensive preparation, including the transport and placement of soil. Members of the community readily contributed to this effort. Those involved included Bibi Martin, Rudolph Martin, Raymond Lajoie, and his sons, Herman, Mike, and Phil, as well as Stacy Dumond. The journey reaches its culmination as each building is carefully planned and positioned within the village. Every structure is thoughtfully integrated, piece by piece, bringing the vision to life through precise coordination and design.
In 1919, Alexander Swainterman deeded a 100 by 150-foot parcel of land to the plantation of Hamlin for the construction of this one-room schoolhouse. Following its closure in 1942, the building was repurposed for a variety of uses, including as a potato picker shack and later as a storage shed. On March 17, 1975, Ed Pelletier and Son began preparations to transport the structure to the historical site within the village. During relocation, the operation was documented. However, upon approaching the intended location, the truck began to sink as a result of spring thaw conditions. The structure had to remain in place until the ground refroze sufficiently to allow the move to continue, approximately 1 week later. In a generous act of preservation, the former Hamlin schoolhouse was donated to the Acadian Village by Jim Ayotte of Hamlin in 1975, and subsequently relocated to the site. It was carefully restored to reflect the appearance and character of early rural schoolhouses of the period.
The relocation and restoration of the schoolhouse were made possible through the generosity of Mrs. Cecile Levasseur Kirk of New Jersey. A native of Hamlin and a former teacher in Hamlin, Cyr, and Frenchville, Mrs. Kirk's support ensured that this important piece of local educational history would be preserved for future generations.
Here is an architectural visualization showing the transformation of repurposed old wooden house timbers reconstructed as a recreation hall on the village. This process depicts the sustainable reuse of wood materials from the old structure, reclaimed beams, planks, and panels, being incorporated into the new building design. The scenes highlight the craftsmanship, sustainability, and community spirit with a mix of rustic textures and architecture.
You know, sometimes I step back from all this framing and just look at what we're building. It's more than just wood and nails, isn't it? It's like we're bringing history back to life. Absolutely, Joe. I was just thinking about that myself. All those old Acadian families, their stories. To think we're building a place where people can see what their lives were like. It's a real honor, if you ask me. Couldn't agree more, Jim. And the craftsmanship we're putting into these buildings, it's a testament to those Acadians. They built things to last with their own hands, and we're doing the same. It's a connection, a heritage. Every board we nail, every cut we make, it feels like we're preserving something important. I tell you, I haven't worked on a project that's felt this meaningful in a long time. It makes the long days worth it. It really does. And the feeling when you see it all coming together, like that old schoolhouse we just finished framing, you can almost hear the children's laughter. It's a good feeling, a real good feeling. And knowing that people will come from all over to see this, to learn about our culture, it makes you proud. We're not just building structures, we're building a legacy for future generations. That's it exactly, Jim. A legacy. And we're doing it right. Every detail. We owe it to the Acadians to make this village as authentic and true as possible. This isn't just a job. It's a labor of love for our culture.
The original structure, believed to date to the 1790s, was donated by Philip and Leon Rossignol of Hamlin. It was previously located along Boniface Road, an area associated with a branch of the Roy family. Constructed of hand-hewn logs stacked horizontally and secured with wooden pegs, the building was carefully dismantled piece by piece and meticulously reconstructed at the village. The Lions Club's organization was entrusted with sponsoring the country store, the welcoming entrance to the Acadian Village experience. Volunteers answered the call despite the significant challenge of constructing the building using repurposed materials. The country store, which serves as the entrance to the Acadian Village experience. Inside, visitors are introduced to the emotional history of the Grand Derangement, the Great Upheaval, highlighted through historical documents and personal accounts. The exhibits explain how the Acadians' refusal to take an unconditional oath of allegiance to the British led to their expulsion.
This house was constructed in the 1880s by a prosperous farmer and lumberman, William Cook Hammond. It was situated along the banks of the St. John River, overlooking Hammond Brook within Hamlin Plantation. The property was later acquired by Euloge LaPlante and ultimately donated by its final owner, Lorne J. Parent, Jr.
Regis Levasseur was the original deed holder of this farmland and constructed the hand-hewn log farmhouse between 1860 and 1870. He was the father of 12 children, 8 sons and 4 daughters. In 1933, ownership of the property passed to Onésime Ouellette, the father of 19 children. The farm was later acquired by his son Harold. The home's construction reflects the architectural style characteristic of its era. This was one of the 3 buildings needing transportation from its original site onto the village site. Preparations for relocating the structure included a state police escort to the village. Constructed in 1857, this building was donated by Mr. and Mrs. Addis Beaupre of Grand Isle, Maine. It was originally the home of Mrs. Beaupre's great-great-grandfather, Abel Mornault, a prosperous lumberman. The structure was relocated 16 miles from Grand Isle during the summer of 1975. The interior walls have been partially exposed to reveal their construction of squared logs, fitted tightly together and sealed in a manner similar to ship caulking. Transporting the structure required a coordinated collaborative effort. CETA workers remained attentive throughout the process, ensuring the building was carefully supported and stabilized during reconstruction. The Mornault House functioned as a post office in the early 1900s and was purpose-built to accommodate this enterprise. The fixtures displayed in this section represent the interior of the former Keegan Post Office, which operated from October 1904 through October 1971. The barn is an exact replica of the Leon Rossignol barn, constructed using original lumber sourced from Hamlin, Maine. The materials were donated by Mr. Rossignol, who lived to the age of 99. The wooden slats used in the roof were provided by Rudolph Bleer, then owner of a local cedar fencing mill. Notably, the boards are installed lengthwise along the roof, a method that differs from most contemporary construction practices. This building was constructed entirely by volunteers from the Van Buren Rotary Club and features a modified Acadian roofline. The lumber used in its construction was salvaged from the Sear home in Hamlin, which was donated by Bob Michaud of Grand Isle. The original structure had been built using traditional methods, hand-hewn logs secured with wooden pegs, without the use of nails, a characteristic discovered during its dismantling. The shop was reconstructed using the same techniques. Notable features include a cobblestone floor alongside a wooden log floor. While some of the contents were contributed by local farmers, the majority of the blacksmithing tools were donated by Guy Marquis, son of Pete Marquis, a well-known black. The chapel, named in honor of the Acadian patron saint, was constructed by the Van Buren chapter of the Knights of Columbus, under the direction of Grand Knight Rudy Sear. All materials used in its construction were donated. Logs and shingles were provided by Pinkham Lumber Company of Fort Kent, the Great Northern Paper Company of Ashland, and Rudolph Bleer, a former owner of the Van Buren Shingle Mill. Sherrod Parent of Hamlin transported the logs to the site and was responsible for debarking and cutting them to size. The structure features hand-hewn logs that are beveled and carefully fitted without the use of nails. Insulating strips were used between the logs, replacing traditional materials such as horsehair, flax, or buckwheat hulls. Much of the chapel's interior furnishings were secured through donations, largely coordinated by John LaJoie of Keegan, a member of the Knights of Columbus. The grotto, located just behind and to the side of the chapel, was constructed by local masons under the direction of John LaJoie and Anne Roy. The statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary, patron saint of the Acadians, was donated by Anne Michaud. This building was donated by Bertrand Serrois, a potato farmer from the upper Van Buren-Keegan area. The original structure was a substantial homestead that once included a general store. It was carefully dismantled board by CETA workers, and the salvaged lumber was repurposed in several buildings on the site, including this reconstructed example of a typical early 20th century home. Additional materials were sourced from the Louis Levasseur Potato House on Upland Road in Van Buren. The interior features wood slat finishing, a detail more commonly associated with the homes of relatively affluent families of the period. A notable feature of the staircase is a hinged step that provides built-in storage for shoes and boots. The original structure, constructed of hand-hewn logs, dates to the 1860s and was originally owned by Ubald Dufour. It was later donated by Mr. and Mrs. Camille Morin of St. David. The exterior boards are fastened using traditional wooden pegs. At the time of acquisition, the building consisted of only 3 walls. To facilitate the reconstruction of a complete structure, those existing walls were reduced in size to provide sufficient materials for a 4th wall, resulting in a footprint smaller than that of the original building. This exhibit showcases a selection of period-appropriate tools associated with building construction and carpentry, including vices, saws, axes, boring machines, chisels, and planes. This building, donated by the Bangor and Aroostook Railroad, was originally located in New Sweden, where it served as a cart house and equipment storage facility. The wide entrance door was designed to accommodate the movement of large freight items, including baggage carts and motorized carts. The scale position to the left was used for weighing freight prior to shipment. The larger tools on display were utilized in the installation and maintenance of rails and ties. The coal exhibited here fueled the railroad's coal-burning engines and was also used to heat station buildings. The motorcar displayed on the track in front represents a later development in railway maintenance, replacing the earlier handcar. It was used by railway personnel to inspect and service sections of track between stations and section houses. The building was constructed using reclaimed lumber sourced from several older structures in the surrounding area, with much of the work completed by participants in the CETA program. The cobbler's tools and workbench originate from the Joseph Belzile store. Mr. Belzile, a skilled cobbler, owned and operated a shoe store in Van Buren until 1963, and was the first in the Upper St. John Valley to incorporate electric machinery into shoe repair. The equipment, along with a selection of period shoes and the cobbler's bench, was generously donated by his wife, Anne Belzile, Willette of Van Buren. This business was established in the late 1920s by Alexis Boulieu and was later acquired by Émile Violette. Mr. Violette subsequently sold the enterprise, along with its equipment, to Roderick Dumond. After several years of operation, Mr. Dumond closed the shop and generously donated the equipment to the Acadian Village. Additional beauty shop artifacts, including the hairdryer, curling rods, and towel rack, were donated in memory of Joan Parent-Guillot by her son. The Emma Levasseur-Dubé Art Gallery was generously donated by Mr. Louis Dubé, a distinguished benefactor, and was constructed in honor of his mother. It serves as a cultural and artistic center, housing a diverse collection of works by local, state, and nationally recognized artists. This gristmill is dedicated to François Violette, who established and operated the first water-wheel-powered gristmill on Violette Brook, in what was then known as Violette Settlement, now the town of Van Buren. He founded the original mill in 1791. In 1827, his son, François Violette Jr., rebuilt the gristmill on the same site, continuing the family's milling tradition. After passing through several owners over the years, the final Violette proprietor was Frederick Violette, who also operated an associated wool carding mill. Constructed in 2005 to house the machinery for the grist mill and carding mill, this building is the most recent addition to the village. Its architectural style and construction methods reflect those commonly found in similar structures of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The principal exhibits, including the flour mill and carding mill machinery, were acquired from Chez Dion Corriveau of Frenchville. On July 10, 1974, a ribbon-cutting ceremony marked the generous donation of the Violette House by Mrs. Vital Violette. The original 2.5-story structure, formerly located on Main Street in Van Buren, was carefully dismantled so that its materials could be repurposed within the village. SETA workers meticulously removed the hard pine and salvaged as much of the original lumber as possible. During the dismantling process, several notable artifacts were discovered within the structure. Among them was a newspaper dated December 2, 1903, reporting on the settlement between Japan and Russia. Additional, less identifiable newspaper fragments were also found within the interior walls, offering a glimpse into the building's historical context. In May 1977, Henry Babe Michaud of St. Agatha undertook the drilling of a well on the site, demonstrating both skill and perseverance. After reaching a depth of 33 feet, a reliable water source was successfully located, an important milestone for the village's.
L'Héritage Vivant, Living Heritage Historic Society, representing the communities of Grand Isle, Van Buren, Sear Plantation, and Hamlin Plantation, is proud and honored to welcome you to this special reunion and celebration of our shared heritage. Today, we gather for the official dedication of L'Héritage Vivant, Living Heritage Acadian Village, a lasting tribute to the courage, perseverance, and enduring legacy of our Acadian, Canadian, and American ancestors. Through their hard work, faith, and determination, they laid the foundation for the communities we cherish today. As we commemorate this important occasion, we honor their sacrifices, celebrate their achievements, and reaffirm our commitment to preserving their history and traditions for future generations. Their story is our story, and their legacy continues to live on through all of us.
La Société du patrimoine vivant exprime sa sincère gratitude à tous ceux qui ont contribué par des terrains, des matériaux, des services, du financement et des encouragements.
Bicentennial Committee planners convened to discuss and coordinate plans for the observance of the American Revolution bicentennial. Additional committee representatives included Madame Geneste, Martine Pelletier, and Joël Cyr, all of whom eagerly participated in the event. Custom-crafted costumes were developed to ensure an authentic portrayal of the historical period, enriching the overall experience and atmosphere of the celebrations. The younger generation, dressed in custom-designed costumes, participated enthusiastically in the bicentennial commemoration. As the Acadian Village celebrates its 50th anniversary, its legacy continues to be sustained and enriched by the people of the St. John Valley. Their commitment ensures that the spirit of those who came before us remains alive, inspiring pride, connection, and a lasting appreciation of our collective history.